YouTube, what's happening? We are in the midst of a 2-day baseball break. The All-Star weekend is officially over. The All-Star game is done. We have a 2-day break before we get back to the second half of the season. So I figure now is the perfect time to give a little behind the scenes look. I've said this in a few videos now that I'm going to do this through once we get here. So I've had several people ask me, how do I come up with what you see before you? This is the numbers. You haven't seen the screen before. You typically see a screen like this. You'll see these numbers and everything, but it's more zoomed in so you don't see the outside, because I use Google Sheets for everything. So, and you'll also see like this now. You'll see the schedule where I put the season record and the units and the teams and everything. So I figured enough people have asked, so I will show you everything that goes into making this. So if you want to make your own model, you can just copy this video. And there's other sources out there you can use that do a great job of showing how to make these. I can show, I'm not going to go fully in depth because it's kind of in depth, but I can show you some of the stuff I use. So the first thing we're going to start with is, we're going to start with this. I call this my face page because this is where all the data compiles to before I make it look nice for the screen. So this is where I have all my times for my games. I have all the matchups. I always put nerfy percent here. I don't know why I put that there first. I just do. And then you can see the formulas. So everything is pulled from a page called Framework. What is Framework, you ask? Well, let me show you. My Framework page is everything here. It's a little messed up right now because, you know, we don't have pictures out there. This is all being pulled from our Daily Lines page, which gets pulled from a website called Fantasy Pros. So I use Fantasy Pros because I use import HTML for everything in Google Sheets. And if you're familiar with Google Sheets, you're familiar with the fact that HTML will pull tables and graphs from websites and actually import them into your spreadsheet like this, and it automatically updates every hour. I don't have to worry about it, so it just does it. So tomorrow when I sit down, I log in, boom, it'll say the next day of the games, and boom, it'll keep going and going. It'll just slide up, and then I also added some stuff in here to, you can see who's pitching, and then I got some conversion stuff to make it look nice. You got the records, the streaks. I have all this stuff in here. It's pretty straightforward. It took a minute to compile and have everything exactly where I want it, but that's the fun part of Excel or Sheets. You know, formulas can get you where you need to go. So, but this is the sheet I use. You can see it's the 2024 baseball game schedule from Fantasy Pros. Great website. I liked it because not only do they give me, it keeps it updated. They do a great job of updating this. They actually give me the pictures and the records for the pictures, which was key because certain sites wouldn't do it and certain sites wouldn't upload it. Like I would love to use Baseball Reference for everything, but they just do not work right with Google Sheets. I need the sites that be able to, when I type in import HTML, it'll pop up information. A lot of sites, if they use Java, it will not work that way. So using it this way, I'm able to just go to the website, have this automatically populate once a day, once an hour it updates. So if its picture changes, an hour later, boom, it'll update as long as the website's been updated. So it's an awesome feature. I mean, there's better ways to do it, yes, but for me, I haven't paid anybody for this. I did this all myself, all my own self-taughtness. That's a word, self-taughtness. We'll go with that. So the fact that I did this for free is great. Now, I do want to pay somebody to take my information gathering, condense it into a proper way where everything's cleaned up and looks good and works properly. And then maybe eventually I'll do like a membership thing where if you just want the model, instead of having to make one yourself, you do a membership and boom, you can get access to the model or the spreadsheet, whatever you want to call it. So that's in the works eventually, especially for football season and basketball when we get here, because I know people are going to want that. So I kind of want to get that going soon. So, but you can see here, you can see it has the teams, your times, your pitchers. This is more so for fantasy, but I mean, they have the totals for VBR in here, which is for them. It's their ranking, which I don't care about. I just wanted the main information, which I got. So you can see that's on my daily lines, and it goes all the way down as long as they have it updated. It'll automatically update for me, which is great. Beautiful. I love that. On the framework page, again, you can see it has all this. The main sites I use, we'll start with that, is I use team rankings a lot. And what I use it for is on our team data page. This is where I get all my statistics. So for batting average, runs per game, strikeouts per game, nerfy percent, I use team rankings. And what team rankings is, which a lot of people don't know, they are an awesome website. They show you what they've done this year. the last 3 games, the last 1 game. So people, I've seen the comments that were upset that the nerfy wasn't there for the last 1 and 3 anymore. Come to team rankings, boom, there you go. You can see any date you want, and you can see the last 3 games, what they've done. The last 1 game, you can see what they've did. You can see what they've done as a home team, what they've done as a away team, and what they did last year. It's great, and they have so many stats, so many stats. So I use them for their batting averages. As you can see, that's how I get the last 3 and the last 1. You can see home and away. That's how I get the home and away nerfy, teams and everything. Runs a game. I put all that into the spreadsheet, and then I'll show you here in a second how I get to the actual, spark line that shows up. So now that's 1 and 3. How do we get 7 and 15 on the, when we look at something like, not that one, that was ugly. When we look at something like, and you get 3 and 1, sure, but when we come to 7 and 15, how do I get those numbers? Well, let me show you. For those, we use MLB.com because they actually have that set up. So MLB, just for basic statistics, you can see here, import HTML. I used MLB's website, got everything there. And if you go to the actual website, this is what you get. You get their team hitting ranking statistics overall. That's all it is. Gives me the games. This is for 2 weeks. So if I zoom out a little bit, you can see I have averages and walks and everything on here for all teams in the majors. They're all there. So I just want that to transfer over to my file here so I can have the information here. And then I added, a little couple easy formulas where I wanted to get the runs a game, hits average, and their strikeouts. So if you want to go further, if you want to go OBS, OPS, slugging, steals, home runs, you can add all that if you wanted to. For the way that I do videos, I don't want that information. I mean, I look at it, but it's not something that, if I try to cover all of those stats, the video will be 2 hours long, and no one's trying to sit through a 2-hour video to get some picks. It ain't happening. So I'm trying to make it easier on you and me. So I try to get what the people want. It gets the people going. So you can see this is what we have here. And this is for 7 games, and you can see this is for 15 games. You can see it there. Now, the last one I use to get more of the, when you can get the record, the streak, things like that, I come over and I go to ESPN and I go to the standings page, which is just basic standings. And when you do it, it gives you get all the teams. You can see import HTML, but table 1 gives me this stuff. And I use it again for table 0, which gives me the actual numbers. And that's this page right here. That's all it is. It shows you the record, home and away, their streaks, their last 10. I can have all that information on screen if I want to, but I just don't need all that information. But there's tons and tons of information. If you want to build this out for yourself, by all means, there's tons of ways to get it. It's not that complicated. I watched several videos on Google how to actually build these models out here. How to build a baseball model there's tons of them out there, and everyone's different because they have different stats in there. So I used different helper columns so I can have it look a certain way. So when it's on screen, I can see Houston and Seattle, or I can see LA Dodgers instead of Los Angeles. That way, when I see Boston, Los Angeles, I think I know it's the Dodgers and not LA. For the images, to have them stand out, I have a tab dedicated strictly to team logos. I literally downloaded each logo on each one, make sure it was the color logo, not their basic. I want a square, perfect square color logo. I did it in Canva. I do a lot of work in Canva, to be honest. So, and I have it with their team, and these are just helper columns. So when I am looking at Boston, I use an index formula, which goes to team logos. It matches it based on the name. You can see everything. If it messes up, it hits an error, it updates this, but goes back to where it was. If I look for D3, D3 is the word Boston. Boston pops over here. You look at Boston, boom, it spits back a logo. It's not that hard. Well, once you start messing with it, it's going to be kind of complicated, but once you start seeing videos people doing it, it's not that hard. But for me, I want to pay somebody, have it just packaged up nicely, because there's easier ways to do it, because I have a conversion tab with just nicknames. So I mean, because you have so many ways where like White Sox will be White Sox in 2 different tabs, and Chicago White Sox, and just the way it breaks down is kind of wild. So that's the framework, that's the daily lines, that's the face page. You can see everything here. I have all this here. Now when it comes to the actual rankings themselves, because a lot of people are like, how did you do that? How do you get the trend line? It's just the spark line function. So if you look up the Sparkline function, there's tons of videos how to do this too. Basically, it's just Sparkline, chart type. You can see it's it's factoring on these numbers right here. It's the number itself, not the ranking. And that's how you get the spark line that goes up and down based on these. That's why I do 15, 7, 3, 1. That way I have 4 data points for my trend line. Same thing for batting average, same for strikeouts. I was going to put OPS in there, but it would have made the data kind of condensed and kind of hard to read, so I left it out. When I first started doing this, I included walks. Walks were in here for like the first few weeks. If you were watching the videos from the start, which some of the OGs were, you saw walks. I took them out because, one, they weren't that big a deal for me. Because if you're striking out a lot, you're not walking a lot. If you're not striking out, they kind of balance each other out. So I kept strikeouts in there, mainly for pitcher props. Let's be honest, that's what they were for. So, and now that I use Outlier, Outlier is awesome. Link in the description, obviously. Outlier is great. I can use them. So you can see this is how it works. Same thing on the logos in the middle here. Advantages is just a if function. If one's higher than the other, spit this out. If it's not, spit this out. If it's tied like this one, you put this little dash. That's all I wanted. It's pretty simple, straightforward stuff. To get the nerfy, you can see face page, and it's just them two multiplied together, because to get probability of 2 percentages, you multiply them together to get based on what they've done this year. That's it. No other outside factors like pitching or bats or lineups or nothing. Just what they've done this year. And like I said, that information comes strictly from this tab right here, from nerfies. And nerfy is always going to be 2024, but it's going to be like for this one, like Philly home at Dodgers, we would take the Philly percent at home and the Dodgers percent on the road. That's it. That's all you do. You just look at each one, you multiply them together. It seems how it works out. So it works out pretty good. So as you see, the record this year has been pretty nice. So lastly, the last thing I want to look at is how do I get the actual rankings? Because we did spark lines, we did how I get the information, how we get the total, all that stuff. And you can see when, like Friday, there's only 14 games. Well, this is the 15th game spot because Milwaukee and whoever they're playing is off. I think it's Minnesota. They're off on Friday for some odd reason. I guess they get an extra day off. So you can see it's going to be a bunch of NAs, which means I come over to my 15th tab. It's a whole bunch of nothing because it ain't there, because I need information. You can see it just doesn't match. Nothing shows up for that day. So on the 14th, we have Houston and Seattle. So that's how it works out. You can see how it looks, the trend line. I have them set parameters to certain different directions and everything, so it makes it look nice. It's all a Google sheet. It's all easily manipulable. It can do things in it. So yeah, I'll go back here to the last thing. So I added columns for each stat because all these stats came from the runs per game 15, 7, 3, 1, which strictly came from my framework page, which is where I have all the information going into. You can see all the numbers going into it. It's a lot of numbers. So you can see this is it just pulls the information. It looks it up based on who's playing who's the home team, who's the away team. It's not that complicated, I don't think. But you can see now we come back to face page. For the rankings, we just take the rank formula, which is awesome. And you have a set of data. You look up certain areas and they'll rank it. And I have it set to go through 1 through 30, pretty much. So like if it runs a game, you could see that Angels are tied for 3 runs a game. They're tied with Baltimore. They're both tied at 29th. That means there's no 30th because there's a tie. So you can see how that works. You can use it across the board in any formula, any function. Batting average, it works across the board. Like you want to see, oh, well, this team is in the last 15 games only batting 209. Who was that? The Angels, of course, are batting 209 the last 15 games. That's just how it works. They're 30th. You want to see first who has the highest batting average in 15 games. That would be Minnesota, who is not playing, so they're not on the list. But it doesn't just cut to 1, it shows you number 2. So it'll show if they're in the rankings but they're not there, it's not going to show, which I like. So it's pretty consistent overall. So outside of that, I show the conversion tab, I show my team logos, how I just downloaded logos offline. I downloaded them, put them in Canva, spiced them up, made sure they're square, make sure it looks good. Showed the framework and how everything works. You can see all records, streaks, pitchers, and then all the stats. And I'll slow down a little bit through this so you can see. I put expected batting averages based on a formula, weighted averages. I haven't used it this year. I use it in football a good bit, but I haven't used it in baseball. So those are just columns I have in there. You can see the same information. Then we got the nerfy percents here. We have their games, their runs, the aways, the homes on all this stuff here, so I can get the numbers. For a bit, I had like differentials and spreads and picks, and I had confidence level for a while in football where I was given it would show stars on the screen, like a 1 through 5 star confidence. I might bring that back for football. Baseball, I don't need it, but I might bring it back. So you can see I had live totals where it would update. I had to go in football, so that's how this was born, because of football last year. So these are the lines. Again, all the websites are great. Team Rankings is an awesome website. You can get tons and tons of information on here, especially in the other one. There's your, you go to team stats, and you come down, you go to other, and then no run first any percent. For your nerfy, your yerfy is yes. If you want to know how your opponents do, you can go nerfy, yerfy opponents. You want first inning runs a game, so you're trying to figure out offensive rankings for nerfies. There you go, it's all there. MLB rankings are very straightforward, MLB.com. ESPN standings give me the information I need so I get streaks and records. That's how I do it. And then my main thing is Fantasy Pros. Fantasy Pros gives me the teams, the pitchers, the records, and then I use a formula to actually split up that information. So you can see it spits out NOLA 11-4. Well, I use a formula for splits, a NOLA, and then 11-4 gives me another. It splits them up for me. That way, I can actually have it look a certain way on the screen. That was when I was actually putting pictures on the screen. Now I don't, because I use Outlier, who makes it look a whole lot better than I could, because they have an actual system. I have a sheet, not the same thing. So that's it for this. I think it's pretty straightforward. I know you're going to have questions. Put the questions in the comments. I will try to answer them as I get them. Other than that, you can see Friday we got coming up. It automatically populates. When I sit down Saturday, this will say Saturday, July 20th. All the games will be updated automatically. The logos will be updated. The times will be updated. Only thing I got to change is my betting numbers. That's it, because I pull them from the Action app, because that's where I track everything. Action, just the green Action app. It's pretty straightforward. So, yeah, just Action app. Good stuff. So, yeah, so I update that. All this automatically updates for me. I do nothing here. This does it for me 100% automatically, which is what I want. Work smart, not hard, was what I think. So, so that's it. I think I went pretty in depth there. Drop your questions in the comments, drop a like, drop a subscribe, drop a share, whatever. And that's it. And we will see you for the games on Friday. Peace.